everybody. This is Jess from 3D Learning Experts, and you're listening to the LD Experts Podcast, the show for busy parents who want to help their kids with learning disabilities, or as I like to say, learning differences, go from surviving to thriving. Hello, everybody. Today we have a special guest. Her name is Jessica Patay, and she has a nonprofit that's called We Are Brave Together. And she started this nonprofit because of her son who has Prader-Willi syndrome. And I'm going to let Jessica share about Prader-Willi syndrome and tell us more about it.
Thank you for having me. It's always great to have an opportunity to meet with others who are supporting families in the altered parenting world. And my story began with Ryan, who was our second son, and he was diagnosed with a rare genetic disorder called Prader-Willi syndrome when he was 5 weeks old. And so there's a long story about how to explain PWS, but in a nutshell, he was born with low muscle tone. He needed occupational therapy, feeding therapy, physical therapy, speech therapy throughout his growing up experience. I think he still gets a little bit of speech therapy. He is now 19 and in the transition program of our school district. And if PWS makes the news, there is this insane feature of the syndrome, and it's food-seeking behavior. So it's called hyperphagia. And in childhood, this hyperphagia sets in because in PWS, there are no satiety signals in the brain and body. So every family is different in terms of how this is displayed and how urgently this shows up and how life-threatening it can be. For Ryan, we didn't have to lock our kitchen till he was 13, thankfully. And then by the time he was 16, we had to become very, very vigilant in making sure that things were locked and that he didn't have any access anywhere to extra food. So fast forward to today, and he's a sweetheart. He's very social. He would love to be here asking questions. He is going to be in the transition program till he's 22. And then after that, we will see. But because of parenting Ryan and knowing that there is so much isolation and stress and highs and lows and the need for community, I launched We Are Brave Together back in 2017 with the intent to support caregiving moms. So if you're a mom with a child with any diagnosis, any struggle, even if your child is not diagnosed, but clearly has some extra or unique or extreme needs, you're welcome to be a part of the community. And our mission was to combat the isolation and compassion fatigue that caregivers face by offering support groups, low-cost retreats, retreat scholarships, and we have a podcast called Brave Together, which is a library of stories and inspiration and resources.
It is all so wonderful that you have that support system in place now. Would you back up a little? Because I've never heard of satiety. I don't even know if I said it right. Symptoms. And so would you explain what that is and
Sure.
why?
Well, I don't know that we know why exactly. I mean, chromosome 15 is affected in Prader-Willi syndrome. And part of that chromosome's feature is to tell the brain or body that you're full, that you've had enough food. And in PWS, the body and the brain does not receive any signals of being full, of being satisfied, of being satiated. And so that coupled with underlying anxiety and obsessiveness leads to this food-seeking behavior. Food is like air to a child, teenager, or adult with the syndrome. And so we have been trained from the beginning. Thankfully, with an early diagnosis, we received education from the time that Ryan was a baby. And we've been going to conferences and following along ever since. And we've always kept a food schedule. We always need to reassure him of the food schedule. And now that we lived with a locked kitchen, we're always reassuring him that the kitchen is locked, which then lowers his anxiety. What increases his anxiety is when there's potential or hope for access to extra food.
Hmm. So, what is his cognitive abilities? And when you said you're always reassuring him that there isn't access to it.
So in PWS, it's a spectrum in terms of their impact on their cognitive abilities, academic abilities, physical abilities. For Ryan, he's 19, but in some ways, he's like a fifth grader. In some ways, when he melts down, he's like a 4-year old. And then other times, he asks you such beautiful, thoughtful, compassionate questions. He seems like a 19-year-old or a very compassionate, extra compassionate 19-year-old. Because some of the things that he says or asks is not really typical of a teenager. So if you do not receive a high school diploma in the state of California, you get to stay with your school district until you're 22.
And so then is he in all pull-out classes or is he in gen ed classes?
So he's in a transition program, so it's very different from then being in a high school program.
Oh, okay.
Ryan's growing up experience, he was always in a special day class with a one-on-one. My friends' kids, some were in general ed, some were in general ed with modifications. Some had aids, some did not. Some had a shared aid. It's a spectrum in terms of the needs for sure.
And is this genetic or does it just happen randomly?
Well, it's genetic and it happens randomly.
Oh.
So meaning it is genetics that are affected, chromosome 15, and there are a few different genetic subtypes, but it is a random occurrence at conception. It's not genetically inherited because
Okay.
kids with this syndrome or adults with this syndrome do not have children. So it's not carried on, it's not passed on.
Mhm.
There's no carriers, just their reproductive ability, and then also just the cognitive level as well.
Um, and so how many people are in your support group?
So within We Are Brave Together, we are approaching 2,000 moms internationally. Now, is that 2,000 moms that are actively engaged in support groups? No, but we have membership all over the world. Every United State is represented as well.
And so is We Are Brave Together your support group? Is it just people who have your son syndrome or is it just moms in general who have children who need extra support?
So it's if you are a mom to a child, teenager, or adult with any diagnosis, whether it's medical, psychological, psychiatric, developmental, cognitive, physical, everything from rare disease to something common. And we also include mental health. So if you have a child who's not otherwise disabled, but battling depression, anxiety, and addiction, OCD, what have you are also welcome to be a part of We Are Brave Together. And we have some specific support groups for that category of moms too. Well, we are growing in our ability to offer more and more. So for 2023, we will be rolling out 7 or 8 retreats. In the early part of the year, we'll be doing one February, March, April, and May, and then probably skip summer and then do a few in the fall.
And are they all throughout the United States or are they located just on the West Coast?
So we have done mostly in Southern California because 50% of our membership is in Southern California. Pre-COVID, we did one in Florida. Next year in 2023, it will be available to us to offer 2 out of state. So we are hoping for Colorado and we're hoping for Nashville, Tennessee.
Wonderful. And so what what do you want? What is your goal for for your nonprofit?
My dream would be that we would have support groups in every state and in every country or a lot of countries. We do have some outside the United States already. And my dream would be that we could offer retreats every single month and offer them all over the United States and eventually overseas or abroad as well.
Well, I'm sure that dream will become a reality. What
And
would you like everyone to know about your nonprofit?
well, that we feel strongly that connection and community are critical to surviving and thriving amidst really any chronic hardship or altered motherhood or altered parenthood as we say. And our core value is let us share, not compare. So we're not here to say, well, my story is harder than your story, or your kid only has such and such. Every story counts, every diagnosis counts, every challenge counts. And we're not here comparing pain. We're here to share each other's stories, to validate one another, to say, I see you. I'm holding space for you. I'm here for you. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you for demonstrating how brave and courageous you are in your everyday caregiving life. It's really a loving sisterhood, a loving, supportive community where we take out the cattiness and competition and comparison that you can find among women. We will have none of that here. It's just a safe, sacred space, whether it's an online connection through our private Facebook group or a virtual support group or an in-person support group or a retreat. That is our atmosphere. That is our essence. That is what we talk about. That's how we train our leaders to lead their groups and create sacred space for the moms that they are serving.
That's so beautiful because, like you said, I mean, it's very easy for people to just want to compare and want to outdo each other. And I mean, we definitely don't need to outdo each other with our kids' challenges.
Right.
And so that's wonderful that you have an environment that is supportive and loving for everyone. And so, what is the best way for people to get into contact with you?
Well, if you are a mom and you're saying, I'd love to join, you can join us through the website, wearebravetogether.org. We're also on Instagram at We Are Brave Together. We also have a Facebook page that if you look up We Are Brave Together, you will definitely find it. And our podcast is Brave Together Podcast with Jessica Patay, and we're all over the platforms. And so you can also get a taste of what we're offering there as well.
That's great. So, no matter what someone's preferred social media outlet is, they can find you.
Yes. Well, our big phrase is you are not alone, and we so want moms to know they don't need to go it alone. They are not meant to go it alone, and that there is just a huge tribe of women that are ready and willing and waiting to support you. Thank you so much for allowing me to share We Are Brave Together.